I don't care what anyone says, I was trying to save a life. Let me say that again, louder, for the people in the back who keep calling me stupid, naive, pathetic, delusional. I was trying to save someone's life. It wasn't cheating, it was compassion, it was humanity. It was what any decent person would do when someone they care about is lying in a hospital bed, tubes in their arms, monitors beeping, doctors saying the surgery needs to happen now or else, and they're begging for help because they have no family, no insurance, no savings, no one else in the entire world to turn to. People send money to strangers all the time. GoFundMe exists for a reason. Charity organizations exist for a reason. Crowdfunding exists for a reason. That doesn't make me stupid. That makes me kind. That makes me someone who gives a damn when the rest of the world scrolls past suffering without a second thought, without losing a moment of sleep, without feeling even a flicker of empathy. And my husband is acting like I robbed a bank or something, like I held up a convenience store, like I committed some unforgivable, heinous crime, like I'm the villain in this story, the antagonist, the person who destroyed everything, when all I did was respond to a human being in crisis. He should have supported me. He should have understood. If he had shown more empathy in our marriage, if he had been there emotionally, if he had made me feel seen and heard and valued and important, none of this would have happened. None of it. I wouldn't have needed to find connection elsewhere. I wouldn't have been vulnerable to someone showing me basic human kindness. But no, he was too busy with work, too tired for real conversations, too distracted to notice that I was drowning in our marriage, suffocating under the weight of being invisible, of being taken for granted, of being treated like a piece of furniture that's just expected to be there. So yes, I found connection somewhere else. And when that person needed help, when they reached out in their darkest hour, when they had literally no one else, I helped. That's what you do when you care about someone. That's what humanity looks like. The money wasn't really his anyway. I mean, technically, it was joint savings, yes, I'm not denying that, but I contributed to that account too. I worked, I earned, I deposited paychecks. I had just as much right to access those funds as he did. It wasn't like I was stealing from him personally, and I fully intended to replace it. I had a plan. I was going to figure it out. I was going to work extra hours or sell some things or find a way to put it back before he even noticed. I didn't know it was fake. My voice cracks when I say that out loud, even now, weeks later, after everything has fallen apart. I didn't know. How was I supposed to know? The photos looked real. The hospital looked legitimate. His pain looked genuine. The medical documents looked official. Everything felt real. The emergency felt real. The fear felt real. The gratitude felt real. But sure, let's all pretend I'm the idiot who should have seen it coming from a mile away. Let's all act like sophisticated internet users who would never fall for anything, who have never trusted the wrong person, who have never made a mistake, who have never believed something that turned out to be false. I hate how everyone looks at me now. Like I'm broken. Like I'm pathetic. Like I'm the punchline to some sick joke that everyone else was in on except me. Like I'm a cautionary tale instead of a person. I'm not. I'm just someone who cared too much. Someone who led with her heart instead of her head. Someone who chose compassion over suspicion. And apparently, in this world, that makes you a fool. It happened in the kitchen on a Tuesday evening in late October. I was making dinner, pasta with marinara sauce, nothing fancy, just something quick because I was tired from work, and my husband came home early. That should have been my first warning sign. He never comes home early. He's always working late, always has meetings, always has deadlines. But there he was, walking through the door at 5:30 instead of his usual 7 new or 8 talentun. I was focused on stirring the sauce, trying to remember if I'd added enough salt and garlic, thinking about whether I needed to reply to a message I'd gotten earlier that day from a friend asking about weekend plans. I heard him set his messenger bag down with a heavy thud that echoed in the hallway. Then I heard him walk to the kitchen table with footsteps that seemed heavier than usual. Then I heard him open his laptop, the familiar startup sound filling the silence. I glanced over my shoulder and asked if he wanted red wine with dinner. He didn't answer. He just sat there, staring at the screen, his jaw tight and clenched, his fingers drumming against the wood of the table in that way he does when he's processing something big. "Everything okay?" I asked, my stomach starting to knot with an anxiety I couldn't quite name yet. He didn't look at me when he spoke. That should have been my second warning sign. "I called the hospital," he said, his voice completely flat. My entire body went cold, like someone had dumped ice water over my head. The wooden spoon slipped slightly in my hand. I gripped it tighter, focusing on the bubbling red sauce like it was the only thing anchoring me to reality. "What?" I whispered, barely able to get the word out. "The hospital," he repeated, his voice still flat and controlled in that terrifying way he gets when he's absolutely furious but refusing to yell or show emotion. "The one in Manila, the one you sent money to, the one where your friend was supposedly having emergency surgery." My heart started pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears, drowning out everything else. "Why would you—" I started to ask. "There is no surgery," he interrupted, each word landing like a physical blow. "No doctor, no emergency room admission, no patient by that name in their system, no surgical team, nothing. The hospital has no record of anyone matching his description, his name, or his supposed medical crisis." I turned off the stove with shaking hands. The sauce continued bubbling for a few seconds before settling into stillness. "That's not true," I said, my voice small and desperate and childlike. "You're wrong. You must have called the wrong hospital. There are probably multiple hospitals in Manila. You must have gotten confused. Maybe he's at a different facility." He turned the laptop screen toward me slowly, deliberately. I saw a fraud report from our bank, official and stamped with red warnings, screenshots of deleted social media accounts, the pages showing error messages, a bounced phone number with a message saying the line had been disconnected, reverse image search results showing the hospital room photos had been downloaded from stock photo websites, reverse image search results showing his face was actually of a Brazilian male model whose photos had been stolen years ago, transaction records listed in chronological order: $10,000 on September 3rd, $25,000 on September 10th, $40,000 on September 18th, $45,000 on September 29th, total $120,000. Gone, vanished, sent overseas to accounts that no longer existed, to a person who was never real. "He promised he'd pay it back," I whispered, tears streaming down my face now, my whole body shaking uncontrollably. "He said as soon as he recovered, as soon as he could access his accounts, as soon as he got back on his feet, he'd send every penny back. He promised." That's when my husband stood up from the table and walked to the drawer near the refrigerator, the one where we kept takeout menus and batteries and random papers. He pulled out 3 pieces of paper and slid them across the table toward me, one by one, like he was dealing cards. Job applications, one for a morning shift at the grocery store on Palmer Avenue. Cashier and stocker, $14.50 per hour. One for evening janitorial work at the Cornerstone office building downtown. Floor cleaning and restroom maintenance, $16 per hour. One for weekend receptionist duty at Henderson Auto Sales on Route 9. Saturday and Sunday, 9-hour shifts, $15 per hour. He looked at me with eyes I didn't recognize, cold, distant, resolved, like he was looking at a stranger he was obligated to help, rather than the woman he'd married 12 years ago. "You wanted to help someone survive," he said quietly, his voice devoid of emotion. "Now you're going to help us survive. You're going to work these jobs until you've earned back what you gave away, every single dollar." People keep asking me how I could be so stupid, so blind, so naive. They don't ask how I could be so lonely. They don't ask what it's like to live with someone who barely looks at you, who barely talks to you beyond logistics and schedules. They don't ask what happens to a woman who spends years trying to be enough, trying to be interesting, trying to be desirable, trying to spark any kind of warmth or passion, or even basic attention from a husband who treats her like furniture, like wallpaper, like something that's just there. It started small and innocent. A chat room I found one night while browsing. Nothing scandalous, nothing secret. Just a public forum where people talked about books, movies, current events, life. I joined because I was bored one night while my husband worked late. Again, for the third night that week, for the 100th night that year. His username was something generic and forgettable, something like Photo Traveler or Wanderer88. I honestly don't even remember now, but his messages weren't forgettable. He asked questions, real questions. Not "how was your day" in that autopilot tone my husband used while scrolling through his phone. Not "what's for dinner" without looking up. Real, thoughtful questions about what I was reading, what I thought about current events, what I believed about life and meaning and purpose, what made me laugh, what made me think. He wanted to know about me as a person, not as a wife who served a function. He called me insightful when I shared my thoughts on a novel we'd both read. Then he called me funny when I made a joke about the ridiculous ending. Then he called me beautiful when I posted a simple, unfiltered photo in the chat. I know how that sounds. I know it sounds like every cliché romance scam story you've ever heard on the news or read about in warning articles. But you have to understand the context. You have to understand where I was emotionally. I hadn't felt beautiful in years. I hadn't felt seen in years. I hadn't felt like I mattered to anyone in years. My husband looked at me like I was part of the house. Functional, expected, forgettable, required for basic operations but not particularly special or worthy of attention. This person looked at me like I mattered, like my thoughts were valuable, like my presence was something to appreciate rather than take for granted. We moved from the public chat room to direct messages, then to a messaging app where we could talk more privately, then to daily conversations that stretched into late-night talks that went on for hours while my husband slept beside me, snoring softly, completely unaware that his wife was awake and connecting with someone else because she couldn't remember the last time he'd asked her a meaningful question. I told myself it was harmless. I told myself it was just conversation, just friendship, just human connection in an increasingly disconnected world, just someone to talk to who actually listened and responded and cared. I told him things I never told my husband, things I'd stopped trying to tell my husband because he never really listened anyway. About feeling invisible in my own marriage. About wondering if this was all there was to life, if I'd spend the next 40 years feeling like a ghost in my own home. About the fantasy I sometimes had of running away and starting over somewhere. No one knew my name, or my history, or what I was supposed to be. He told me about his life too, or what I thought was his life. What I believed was his life because I wanted to believe it. He was a photographer, he said, freelance, traveled constantly for work, assignments in Southeast Asia, Eastern Europe, South America. Had been hurt badly in a previous relationship where a woman had used him for money and then left him devastated. Understood loneliness, understood feeling invisible, understood me. He sent photos, stunning sunsets from beaches I'd never seen, colourful street markets in cities I'd never been to, local festivals with dancing and lights, his face in selfies that showed a handsome man with kind eyes and a warm smile, a man who looked at the camera like he was looking at me specifically. I never asked myself why someone so attractive, so interesting, so worldly, so seemingly successful would spend hours every single day talking to a married woman in her late 30s who lived in the suburbs and whose most exciting daily activity was choosing between 2 flavors of Greek yogurt at the grocery store. I just believed it. I believed all of it, because I needed to. because it filled something that had been empty for so long, because for the first time in years, I felt alive. It was 3 months into our friendship, right as fall was really settling in, when everything changed. I was at the grocery store on a Saturday afternoon, standing in the meat section, debating between chicken breasts and chicken thighs for dinner that night, when my phone buzzed in my purse. The message was different from his usual ones, short, frantic, alarming. "I'm in the hospital." My stomach dropped instantly. I texted back immediately, my fingers fumbling on the screen. "What happened? Are you okay? What's wrong?" The response came in fragments, like he was struggling to type. "Accident. Car hit my motorcycle. Internal bleeding. Need surgery fast. No insurance here." Then a photo loaded on my screen. Him in a hospital bed, pale and sweaty, IV line taped to his arm with medical tape, medical equipment with screens and numbers beeping in the background, his eyes half closed, looking weak and scared and vulnerable. A hospital bracelet on his wrist. I stood frozen in the middle of the meat section, staring at my phone, while other shoppers pushed carts past me and reached around me for packages of ground beef, and the store's mosaic played cheerfully overhead. Another message appeared. "I don't have family here. My parents are dead, no siblings. You're all I have. You're the only person I can ask." My heart was racing. My hands were shaking. I felt physically sick with worry. I didn't think. I didn't pause. I didn't question. I just acted on pure emotion and panic. I asked how much he needed. He said the surgery was estimated at $50,000, but he'd been trying to negotiate with the hospital billing department. He thought he could get it done for $35,000 if he could pay in cash up front, and they needed the payment before they'd proceed because he was a foreign patient without local insurance. I told him I'd help. I told him not to worry. I told him I'd figure it out. I abandoned my cart in the meat section and drove home in a daze. I went straight to our home office. I logged into our joint savings account while my husband was out playing golf with his co-workers, doing the one leisure activity he always made time for, while claiming he was too busy for date nights with me. I transferred $10,000 to the account number he provided through the messaging app. Within minutes, he sent me a crying emoji and a message that made my chest swell. "You saved my life. I don't know what I would have done. You're an angel." I felt needed, important, heroic, like I'd done something that truly mattered. But then the next day, Sunday morning, there were complications. More messages arrived. They found something else during surgery. Additional internal injuries they didn't see on first scan. Need another procedure immediately. I'm so sorry to ask again. I'll pay everything back, I swear. Another $25,000 transferred while my husband was in the shower, getting ready for his Sunday morning gym session. Then on Tuesday, infection had set in. Antibiotics aren't working. Need stronger medication and extended hospital stay. They won't treat me unless I pay up front. Another $40,000 moved from our savings while my husband was in back-to-back meetings at work. Then on Friday, complications from the infection required intensive care. ICU is expensive here. Need 24-hour monitoring. Recovery will take longer than expected. I'm terrified. Another $45,000 transferred while I sat in my car in a parking lot, hands shaking, telling myself this was definitely the last time. Each transfer, I told myself it was the final one. Each time, I believed him when he said he'd pay me back as soon as he recovered, as soon as he got back to work, as soon as he had access to his accounts that were temporarily frozen because of the accident and hospitalization. Each time, I moved money from savings to checking to the international wire transfer service. Each time, I deleted the confirmation emails before my husband could see them. Each time, I told myself I was doing the right thing, the compassionate thing, the human thing. Each time, I promised myself, this is it. This is the last time. No more after this. But it never was the last time. There was always another complication, another emergency, another urgent need. And each time, I sent more money, because how could I not? How could I abandon someone in their hour of greatest need? How could I be the person who said no when someone's life hung in the balance? My husband didn't say anything for 2 weeks after the last transfer. That's what I didn't know at the time. That's what makes my skin crawl now when I think about it. When I replay those 2 weeks in my mind. He knew. He'd seen the alerts from the bank about unusual large transactions. He'd gotten the phone calls from the fraud prevention department about international wire transfers. He'd noticed the savings account balance dropping in large increments that didn't match any of our normal spending patterns or planned expenses. But he didn't confront me immediately. He didn't yell or accuse or demand explanations. He didn't even ask subtle questions to try to catch me in a lie. He just watched silently and investigated methodically. He called the hospital in Manila using the phone number from their official website. He reverse-searched the photos using Google's image search tool. He contacted the wire transfer service to trace where the money actually went. He filed preliminary fraud reports with our bank. He documented everything with dates and amounts and screenshots. He built a timeline. He gathered evidence. He built an airtight case while I kept texting a ghost, kept believing in a person who never existed, kept thinking I was helping save a life when really I was just bleeding our future dry, destroying years of careful saving and planning. The scariest part, the part that haunts me now, is that I had no idea. I thought I was being careful. I thought I was being clever. I thought I was covering my tracks well enough that he wouldn't notice until I had time to replace the money somehow. I thought I was getting away with it. I was wrong about everything. He was 10 steps ahead of me the entire time, watching me dig myself deeper, waiting for the right moment to reveal what he knew. I expected divorce papers when he finally confronted me in the kitchen. I expected screaming and thrown objects and threats. I expected him to throw me out of the house, or at least threaten to. I expected lawyers and separation and custody discussions about how we'd split our lives. Instead, he gave me responsibility, accountability, consequences. "You don't get to cry your way out of this," he said the morning after our kitchen confrontation, after I'd spent the entire night on the living room couch crying and hyperventilating and desperately trying to contact my online friend who had suddenly gone completely silent. Every message I sent, undelivered. Every call I tried to make, disconnected number. The messaging app profile, deleted, like it had never existed. His social media accounts, gone, vanished, scrubbed from the internet, gone, like he'd never existed, like I'd imagined the entire friendship, the entire connection, the entire 3 months of daily conversations. I'd barely slept. My eyes were swollen from crying. I'd thrown up twice from the stress and panic. I looked like I'd been hit by a truck. My husband sat me down at the kitchen table with coffee and a printed spreadsheet. A spreadsheet, multiple pages, color-coded, detailed. He'd calculated our financial situation down to the exact dollar. He'd mapped out what we needed to recover from this loss. He'd researched job opportunities in our area that offered immediate hiring with minimal qualifications required. He'd calculated hourly wages and estimated monthly earnings. He'd created a repayment timeline that extended 18 months into the future. "You're getting 3 jobs," he said calmly, pointing to the spreadsheet. "Morning shift, evening shift, weekend shifts. You're going to work every available hour until you've earned back what you gave away. Every single dollar." "That's not fair," I shouted, my voice breaking and hysterical. "I didn't know it was a scam. I thought I was helping someone. I thought someone was dying. This is cruel." "Neither is losing 6 figures of our retirement savings," he replied, his voice never rising, never showing emotion. "Neither is jeopardizing our future. Neither is the fact that I now have to work extra years before I can retire because my wife decided to play hero for a stranger on the internet." He wasn't finished with his list of consequences. He cancelled our vacation. The trip to Greece we'd been planning and saving for our 15th wedding anniversary. The deposits were non-refundable. We lost another $3,000. He didn't care. He sold my car. The Toyota Camry I'd bought just 3 years ago. He listed it online and sold it within a week. He said I could take the bus or bike to my 3 jobs. The weather didn't matter. Rain, snow, heat, I'd figure it out. He cut up my credit cards, every single one. He stood in the kitchen with scissors and cut them up in front of me, dropping the pieces into the trash can. The American Express, the Visa, the MasterCard, the store cards, all of them. He took my name off the main checking account and opened a new restricted account with just my name. He gave me a debit card connected to that account with a $50 weekly limit for personal expenses. Anything beyond that required his written approval. Everything else you earn goes toward rebuilding what you destroyed, he said, tapping the spreadsheet. I'll track every dollar. You'll give me your pay stubs from all 3 jobs. I'll deposit your checks into the savings account. You'll watch the balance slowly climb back up to where it was before you decided to trust a stranger over your own family. I stared at him in complete disbelief, tears streaming down my face. You're treating me like a child, I whispered, like I'm being punished, like I'm grounded. You acted like one, he said without hesitation. You made an impulsive, emotional decision without consulting your partner. You endangered our financial security. You hid your actions. You lied by omission. You get treated accordingly. But here's the thing that truly broke me, that shattered whatever was left of my heart. He didn't ask for a divorce. He didn't leave. He didn't kick me out. He didn't contact lawyers or start separation proceedings. He kept the marriage intact. But he removed everything that made it comfortable, everything that made it feel like a partnership, everything that made it feel like love. I've been working 3 jobs for 8 weeks now. 8 weeks of barely sleeping. 8 weeks of physical exhaustion so deep it feels like it lives in my bones. 8 weeks of humiliation. Morning shift at Palmer Avenue. Grocery, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday. I stock shelves. I organize produce. I face products so the labels are forward. I mop up spills in aisle 7. I help elderly customers reach items on high shelves. I smile at regular customers who ask how I am, and I lie and say I'm great. I see my former neighbors shopping there sometimes. I see women I used to have coffee with. They look surprised to see me in a store uniform with a name tag. They ask if I'm working there now, and I say yes, just helping out for a while. They look uncomfortable and change the subject quickly. I wear non-slip shoes that give me blisters. I develop calluses on my hands from unpacking boxes. My back aches constantly from bending and lifting. Evening janitorial shift at Cornerstone office building, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. every weekday. I clean bathrooms. I empty trash bins. I vacuum carpeted floors. I mop tile floors. I wipe down conference tables. I clean coffee stations. I scrub toilets. I wear rubber gloves and carry cleaning supplies in a cart. I listen to podcasts through earbuds to make the time pass faster. I see my reflection in bathroom mirrors and barely recognize myself. I watch office workers leave at 5 p.m., laughing and chatting, heading out to happy hours and dinner dates, while I'm arriving with my cleaning cart and my bucket of supplies. I see couples meeting up in the lobby, kissing hello, holding hands as they walk out together. I want to scream at them that they have no idea how lucky they are. They have no idea how quickly it can all fall apart. Weekend receptionist at Henderson Auto Sales, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Saturday and Sunday. I answer phones. I greet customers. I schedule test drives. I offer coffee and water. I process initial paperwork. I smile until my face hurts. I wear business casual clothes that I bought at a thrift store because I had to save my $50 weekly allowance for other necessities. I eat lunch in my car because I can't afford to buy food from nearby restaurants. I listen to salespeople make commission while I earn hourly wages. I hear them celebrate closing deals for thousands of dollars while I calculate how many hours I need to work to earn back another 1,000 toward my debt. The math is crushing. At these wages, after taxes, earning back $120,000 will take me approximately 18 months if I work every single shift, never miss a day, never get sick, never take time off. 18 months of this life. I come home after my evening janitorial shift around 10:30 p.m., and my husband is already in bed. We barely speak anymore. He goes to work early. I leave for my morning shift early. We pass each other like roommates, not spouses. He asks me once a week, usually on Sunday nights after my weekend shift ends, "How much did you earn this week?" I tell him the amount from all 3 jobs combined. He nods and updates his spreadsheet on his laptop. Sometimes he shows me the spreadsheet. The savings account balance slowly climbing. The progress bar he created showing how much I've earned back versus how much remains. I've earned back $8,400 so far. Only $111,600 to go. That's it. That's our entire interaction. That's our marriage now. No affection, no intimacy, no conversation beyond logistics and money. He's not punishing me with anger or rage or violence. He's punishing me with indifference, with coldness, with emotional absence. And somehow that's so much worse than if he just hated me. People think I should be grateful my husband didn't leave me. My mother said it when I finally broke down and told her what happened. "You're lucky he's staying. Most men would be gone." My sister said it too. "He has every right to divorce you. You should be thankful he's giving you a chance to make this right." Even my one remaining friend, the only one I trusted enough to tell, said, "At least he didn't throw you out. At least he's letting you fix it." But I don't feel grateful. I feel angry. Furious, actually. I was trying to help someone. That shouldn't ruin a marriage. That shouldn't turn me into some kind of indentured servant working myself into physical collapse to pay for one mistake. Yes, it was a big mistake. Yes, it was a lot of money. Yes, it was poor judgment. But intentions matter, don't they? Context matters, doesn't it? I didn't do it maliciously. I didn't do it to hurt him. I didn't gamble it away at a casino. I didn't spend it on myself buying designer clothes and jewelry. I didn't waste it on something frivolous or selfish. I tried to save someone's life. Someone I cared about. Someone who I thought cared about me. Someone who made me feel valued and important for the first time in years. My husband acts like I betrayed him, like I committed infidelity, like I violated our marriage vows. But I didn't sleep with anyone. I didn't have a physical affair. I didn't sneak around to hotel rooms or lie about working late. It was emotional support that turned into a humanitarian crisis. How is that the same as traditional cheating? I still can't bring myself to say the word scam out loud. It feels too harsh, too judgmental, too final, like it erases the fact that the emotional connection was real, even if the emergency wasn't, like it means I'm stupid instead of compassionate. I still call him someone who needed help in my mind because that's what I believed at the time. That's what motivated every decision I made. That's what felt true when I was living through it. My husband doesn't understand that. Nobody understands that. They just see the money. They see the dollar amount. They see the bank statements and the fraud reports and the obvious signs I missed. They see stupidity, gullibility, betrayal, weakness. They don't see the loneliness that made me vulnerable in the first place. They don't see the marriage that was already broken and hollow before any of this happened. They don't see how invisible I'd become in my own life, how insignificant, how replaceable. Maybe I wanted to feel important. Maybe I wanted to feel needed. Maybe I wanted to be someone's hero, someone's lifeline, someone's everything, because I'd stopped being anyone's anything in my real life. Is that really so terrible? Is that really unforgivable? I'm writing this on my lunch break at Palmer Avenue Grocery, sitting in the break room on an uncomfortable metal folding chair, eating a peanut butter sandwich I made at 5:30 this morning before my shift started. My back hurts from stocking shelves all morning. My feet hurt from standing on concrete floors. My hands are dry and cracked from constant washing and handling cardboard boxes. My husband texted me 20 minutes ago. Don't forget evening shift tonight. Remember your knee pads. Last time you complained about floor pain. That's it. That's the entire message. No, good morning. No, how are you holding up? No, I love you. No, we'll get through this. Just a reminder about knee pads for scrubbing floors. This is my life now. I'm 38 years old, and I'm working 3 minimum wage jobs to recover from trying to be a good person. I'm 38 years old, and I've learned that compassion without boundaries costs everything. I'm 38 years old, and I'm angrier at my husband than I am at the person who scammed me, because at least that person made me feel something real for a while. At least that person saw me as a whole human being with thoughts and feelings that mattered. At least during those 3 months, I felt alive and important and necessary, even if it was a lie, even if it was manipulation, even if it was all carefully calculated fraud. It felt better than the truth of being invisible in my own home, ignored by my own husband, taken for granted in my own marriage. And maybe that makes me pathetic. Maybe that makes me toxic. Maybe that makes me exactly the villain everyone thinks I am. Maybe I deserve these 3 jobs and this exhaustion and this punishment. But from where I'm sitting, broke, exhausted, trapped in a marriage that feels more like a prison sentence than a partnership, I still believe deep down that I was trying to do the right thing. I was trying to save a life. I was trying to be there for someone who had no one else. I was trying to matter to someone. I just wish someone, anyone, could see past the money and the mistake and understand that. I just wish my husband could look at me once with something other than cold disappointment. I just wish I could go back to 3 months ago and make different choices. But I can't. So instead, I finish my sandwich, throw away my trash, clock back in, and return to stocking shelves in aisle 12, wondering how many more weeks until this nightmare ends. Knowing that even when the money is repaid, my marriage will never be what it was. Not that it was much to begin with.